Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I am your host, Donovan Thomas, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today we are talking Cyberpunk 27, 1.5 months later since release.
You said 27. Cyberpunk 27.
Oh shit, 2077?
Yeah, there it is.
I don't even know what this
Cyberpunk
game is
27.
called. Maybe I didn't even play it.
It's the 27th sequel.
Yeah, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button below the notification bell. That way you're up to date on all the cool content we have at 2 for 1 Studios.
Right.
Yeah.
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 And we'll just say we've been putting out a lot of interesting content out there. Some cool collectible action figures.
Yeah.
Megatron just recently made his debut.
Optimus Prime.
He recently made his debut. I know the difference.
Yeah.
And another one that I don't know the name of. And also our new Backflash series has reached the light of day.
It has.
Yeah.
It's been in the works for a while, and it's where I basically sit down and talk to you about maybe some cool movies that you have or haven't seen in a very long time, and maybe you should check out. So it's a cool little.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen either of the movies that we covered. The Shadow and the Guyver so far, right?
The
Guyver comes out Friday.
Comes out like 3 weeks from now. Spoilers, but no, it's The Hidden comes out this Friday.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The Hidden.
I'm sorry.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Looking out for the Guyver though.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's my favorite one of them.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. They're really fun, short form, bite-sized content. Yeah.
Let's get into Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes. Now let's take a small note on our process here. We wanted to give the game plenty of time to gestate and to understand it. And we were a little lazy. And so we're just now getting to our review. Now I'll preface that we're not really lazy. I do think there is a unhealthy standard of reviewing a game and as fast as possible. And this is more just the industry. It's difficult to get a good assessment of a game playing it every hour of every day for a week to finish it. I think that does a disservice to especially what Cyberpunk is. It's a big open world sandbox RPG. That's just not the way those games were meant to be engaged with. And so I do think there is a lot of wisdom in kind of taking a longer period of time to take a look at these, especially these bigger games that you have to play, weeks on end to really understand what you feel about it. At least that's how I am. Yeah,
no, I mean, and for me particularly, this is a different kind of game than I'm used to playing.
Yeah.
And so it was...
You jumped on the train pretty much at the day before it released, I think.
Yeah, I got kind of...
the day it released, maybe.
Yeah, I got caught up in the web and I ended up changing my time zone in New Zealand.
Oh yeah,
and I downloaded it.
Only recently changed mine back.
No, I changed mine back last week.
Because I looked and I was like, it's not 2 a.m.
Well, I was renting something and it was still in like New Zealand currency, and I was like, what in the fuck is happening?
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was like 100. I was like looking at a game, so I was like $120.
No.
I was like, oh, those are New Zealand dollars.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too. No, but I got caught up in the web, so I ended up downloading it, and it was we got new consoles. We did reviews on those and everything else, and I just wanted to be a part of it. And boy, oh boy, we haven't really talked about it on the podcast, but it has been a slew in terms of just the news and the media surrounding CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And we don't want to rehash any of that. I'm guessing if you're here, you probably seen a lot of that. I mean, CD Projekt Red just kind of keeps stepping on a rake, shooting themselves in the foot right afterwards.
Have you ever seen Home Alone? It's basically those two guys at the end, but like a gaming company.
That's what it is. It's right. It's right. And I guess we're all Kevin.
Yeah.
Or some, I don't know who Kevin is, to be honest.
I don't know either. I don't know.
But we don't want to go over that. We want. I'm kind of coming at this from my just personal experience.
Yeah, me too.
I haven't beaten the game, and I'll get to the reason why. There's a very specific reason why. And I haven't played in probably a week and a half.
I'm exactly the same. I haven't played in like a week.
Yeah.
And I haven't beaten the game, but I'm like 32 hours in.
Yeah, I think about 35 hours over about a month of playing.
Yeah. And
I've done very little of the main quest.
I'm like, I would probably say that there's 3 acts from what I understand. I'm still at the beginning of Act 2, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm probably a little farther in than that, but not a whole lot. And we'll get to some of my specific feelings about the different systems and stuff like that. But yeah, this is just going to be kind of us discussing what we like, what we don't like, what we hope it gets to.
Yeah.
And just more personal experiences with it rather than trying to talk about this big industry event, because there are better minds to do that and are much more informed. So this is going to be our personal thoughts.
I think we do a good job, but yes,
we do.
I think you're fine.
That's a different conversation.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So Cyberpunk 2077. Let's do big picture thoughts.
Yeah. You me go first?
Yeah,
okay.
Well,
I don't play typically games that last more than 10 hours. I like single player experiences. Like
Uncharted's like your
Uncharted's, I like my Gears of Wars, and these are kind of creeping the 10 to 15 hours, but my Halo campaigns, my God of Wars, which again, that was a long one. Most of them are not that long as the last one. But my point is, I play these single player experiences with linear stories, where typically I'm guided towards what I'm doing. So it was kind of always a stretch for me to kind of go into this kind of world, this kind of game. And I even have tried to play The Witcher a few times, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt a few times. And I honestly can't get super into that. I think it's gorgeous on the Series X, Witcher 3. I think my hang up with that is there's already this, if it's a huge world and I don't want to spend 100 plus hours in it, I am playing a character that has already been made up. And I feel like if it's supposed to be a game that you're making your own experience, I want to make my own experience from the ground up. The only games I have put a lot of time into are Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I literally have spent, this sounds stupid, this is why I don't do these kind of games, because I can go too far. I've spent almost 30, 40 hours just mining minerals on Mass Effect 2 planets. I made sure I mined every single planet in the game before I beat the game, because I was like paranoid I wouldn't get the right ending.
Did you get the 100% like achievements on all of them?
I didn't get the 100% achievement, but I did mine every fucking planet in that game. I always like, I would literally sit there and I would say, I am Galactus, and I just start mining minerals on the planet, just like to humor myself. And so anyway, and also Dead Rising. I'm a huge Dead Rising guy, and it's also a grindy kind of repetition kind of game. So you spend a lot of hours.
There's not even a lot of story at all in that, right? It's more just action arcadey.
No, Dead Rising is very much story centric.
Okay,
But anyway, that's my whole thing was I don't do these kind of games.
Sure,
but I wanted to on this one just because I knew you were on the plan. You kind of got me hyped for it, and it looked like a great world. I love sci-fi.
The whole world was hyped for it, to be honest.
No, you're right. And to me personally, like Witcher versus Cyberpunk, I love technology and sci-fi and aliens and enhancements and anything science fiction like that. So it was right at my wheelhouse. And I'm also a huge like Blade Runner aesthetic guy.
Yeah.
I've even written and done scripts that involve like Japan and Tokyo and it's kind of like a cyberpunky kind of thing, and I like it. So anyway, that being said, I gave it a shot. My overall thoughts are I don't have any reference. Never played Fallout, never played Skyrim, none of those kind of games, and I enjoy it, but I feel like there's still a lot of things that need to be fixed in terms of just mechanics of like inventory and cosmetics and actually changing your actual development of your character. I do think there is some great story beats that I've encountered and some that feel really good.
Right.
But also I feel like I have encountered better story beats in single player campaigns because they're tailored to manipulating you in a specific way constantly, like a movie is, versus you choosing the actions and how you do things and influencing things. So I don't really very careful with my dialogue choices, but I enjoy that kind of part of it. I don't really skip through. I like to listen to the dialogue and stuff. I haven't beaten it yet, which is kind of a problem for me, but I like it. I just think that there's a lot of issues with it.
Yep.
But I think in a few patches it'll be really solid. I'm of course looking forward to the next gen upgrade. I feel like I'm being really broad here, and maybe
that's what we want. This is just big picture.
Piggyback off what you're saying. But how do you feel about it? I'm sure. I think I know you're kind of the opposite of me.
I mean, not as much as you think, probably. Slight background. The Elder Scrolls were my first introduction into big open world RPGs with Morrowind. Now, I was too young to ever beat it. It was very intimidating. I mostly just got lost and died.
Yeah,
because the map in there was horrible.
Oh, really?
It was like they would literally like give you like go here and then turn left and then eventually you'll hit this and there'll be a town there. And the map is like you don't have an icon on the map. You just have a map.
Oh.
And you're like, well, I was at this city and I think I went that way.
Damn.
So I think I should go this way.
That would be the worst game ever for me because I'm bad with directions.
Looking back on it, there's some of the magic in that, but yeah. All that to say, Fallout is one of my favorite game series. I think maybe from one of the more perfect backgrounds in gaming or like interests in gaming for this game to be kind of up my alley. And in many ways, it is perfectly up my alley. Perfect. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there are a few very specific ways where it disrupts kind of my typical flow or my typical pattern with these kinds of games that make coming back to it less desirable. And I'll get into those specifics shortly, but there's just a few things, and broadly just some of the exploration, some of how you interact with missions and you interact with the world. There's just a few things there that in just playing it and kind of evaluating my own feelings about it and like, wow, why don't I want to play Cyberpunk right now? Why do I want to like play a Fallout again, a 5-year-old game or something? Like, why is that kicking in right now? Why am I not, kind of salivating over this game, which from all the appearances should be the perfect game for me? And yeah, there's a few things that I think are fixable. I hope are fixable. I mean, some of them are minor, like UI changes and things like that. Like the simply being able to know, like have a on-screen in-world UI for like directions. Like give me when I'm driving, have an arrow be on the road to tell me where to turn next, because that tiny ass mini map, I miss every turn.
Oh,
every
really?
Fucking turn.
I have missed a lot of turns, but I've gotten pretty good at just like, I don't even look at the street. I just look at my map.
Which is the fucking worst, because you're driving through one of the most beautiful, well-realized open world cities that have ever existed. There is something cool to look at every inch of that city. And I have to drive around in it in a badass looking car that goes way too fast for me to drive
I'm always motorcycle.
And I'm just looking at the map and I'm just like, well, I can't enjoy the visuals, which is, 25% of what's good about this game.
Yeah, you're right.
And that to me is a design flaw. And I'll get into some more others.
I've gotten some satisfaction from just knowing I'm not looking at the game, looking at this map and like driving perfectly through this map. I don't know why.
I wish who knows? I may throw up some B-roll because I've got some game clips I've recorded. There was one where I just initiated like the perfect movie, like hydroplane drift turn, where your back swings out and then comes back and then it goes.
I've gotten good at turning.
It was good,
especially on the motorcycle.
Yeah. No, the motorcycles are my favorite to drive. They're easier to drive.
Do you have Jack's motorcycle?
Oh yeah,
that's what I drive.
I pissed myself off because I saved up and bought one right before that happened.
Oh,
and I was
really?
Like,
no, man.
I bought one for like $20,000. I got saved up a good few missions.
Oh my God!
And I was like, I want a bike. And then it was like, oh, here's Jacksy's bike, and it looked way better than the bike I bought.
His bike is cool. Like out of just like respect, I'm not going to change my bikes.
And then I got another bike not long after that for another outside mission for Pan Am storyline. Like Pan Am's another great example.
I like Pan Am.
One of my...
You know what's interesting? I know you're talking, but
no, you're fine.
Pan Am, like excuse me, but I've tried to fuck her like 5 times, and like I'm always like, this is the response that I should do. Like I'm trying to play it cool, and she's always like, oh, I guess later. Then I'm like, I guess you have to be just direct in this game. Like I don't have to direct.
No, you just have to. You can't just do it immediately. You have to do several missions with her and choose certain.
No, I've done like options. 2 or 3 missions. I've been like playing it cool and stuff, and she's always like, oh, maybe
you'll know. I mean,
it's always
when you finally get to bang Pan Am, which is one of the best parts of this game. Let's be honest. Pan Am is a great character, and like I know I'm being like all male gazy right now. Yeah, she's hot, but bigger than that, to me, she was like one of the most well-rounded like relationship options I've ever encountered in the game.
Hey, to be fair, the first thing I fucked was a guy.
That's right. By accident. I mean, it's become a meme now. But the angel or Sky, and forgetting which one's a male.
Nothing wrong with it, but I was like literally talking to Scott. And he was like, "Hey, you want to see this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll see that." Well, I don't know what you got. And then next time I'm fucking him, I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess we're doing
this
that."
Long cylindrical piece of technology.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, I guess my character, he doesn't. He
goes both ways.
He's whatever. Who cares?
I mean, honestly, if we're living in a cyberpunk future, probably everyone does.
Exactly. So I was like, "Well, all right." So anyway, I end that. Yeah. So that's how it worked out.
Sure.
Yeah, it was just interesting because also I have an 85-inch or 75-inch TV, and my my windows are open, and all of a sudden this huge, like, I was like, if someone's literally walking by, they're just going to see like this video game, these two guys fucking, and I'm like, man, I didn't know it was going to be a sex scene no matter who's doing it. And I was like, it was kind of embarrassing. But
that's funny.
Anyway,
Hopefully
I'm
Noah
sorry.
wasn't in the room.
Yeah. No, he wasn't.
But back to Pan Am, you won't get with her, at least in my experience, until you finish her quest line. Like that's kind of that's the ultimate kind of thing.
Reward, I guess. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. It's not really. I mean, like it's actually like.
I mean, so far it feels, again, we're kind of jumping around. It feels organic.
I don't know how many spoilers you want.
I don't really want any, but it feels organic.
It's basic. It does feel. It does feel good. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like in making you wait. It feels like it's not like you earned sex, but like we're on a journey with this character, and this feels like a natural culmination of that journey.
You're expressing whatever.
And man, and another thing I love, like the text messages that you can send. Have you noticed that? I don't know if you need it. You get text messages constantly, and with
there's so many.
You can reply. It gives you options to reply with that can continue the relationship.
I know you can reply to people. Okay, I've done some of that.
Pan Am will send you when you start kind of pursuing her, dating her, whatever. You get tons of that are like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. Like, I like you, but I don't know how to talk about it, kind of shit.
I gotta go text Pan Am.
Yeah, you might have like a.
She may be like, come over right now. Like it's like question marks. I'm just ignoring them all.
Just send a red.
Fuck yeah. Anyway,
K. One letter.
Yeah,
K.
exactly. God damn it.
Yeah. So that stuff, though, to me, really built to this feeling like, wow, I'm actually interested, at least in my immersion version of V, in like a relation. Like I cared about her character. It was like when she calls, like, we need you right now. Like, of course it's an RPG. So right now can actually mean 50 hours later in game time if you want. Yeah. But I was like, fuck.
No, that's what I
Grabbed
did.
in a car, closest one I could find, and tore off to the desert. Also because the desert's fucking cool. And I liked getting to be out of the city sometimes.
She called me once and she's like, I need you right now. And I said something. She goes, oh, so you won't come? And I said, no, I'll be there right now. And she's like, oh, thank you. And I was like, of course I'm going to come.
Exactly.
No, there is something interesting at how like these people are artificial and they're not real in any sense of the way that we understand. And I was, reacting how I would want to react, at least in this world.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great example of what Cyberpunk does great. The characters,
they're good.
The dialogue, it's perfect. I mean, it's not perfect. It's great though. I mean, I think you find more consistently well-written, uniquely voiced characters than any other open world RPG I've encountered. Maybe The Witcher 3. I didn't finish The Witcher 3, and I was kind of like you. There was this weird sense of like I'm only jumping into the story at like the third act, and it feels like I'm not connected with this as much.
I'll say this. We'll kind of piggyback off that. One thing that Cyberpunk does that I feel like I'm getting the impression, I don't know this, that I know it does better than Witcher, is that these conversations that you're having, they're presented in a way it's more cinematic, where you're sitting down or the way you sit down next to them, and whenever what's framed for you, it's always there's something populated in like a very mise en scène kind of way.
Yeah, I think the setting helps with that.
It does.
You've got these bright neons and dark shadows everywhere, so it lends itself to more. It's really just a very cinematic city.
And I think Mass Effect, where it's like just talking heads, or Witcher, where it's just like third person.
And it's just kind of generic medieval fantasy.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's something about that where it's really
with some gorgeous skyboxes, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's it's really placing you in a moment and framing it in a really cinematic way, and I feel like that adds a lot to it.
Yes. No, I think the characters, the dialogue interactions, I'm usually not a fan of a voice protagonist. Just Fallout 4 added one. It was the first time in any Elder Scrolls RPG they'd had a voice protagonist, and it's the fucking worst. Especially for just if you want to role play as a certain character, you sound the same. You sound the same if you're role playing as like a fat drunkard with that beats everybody with a baseball bat and wears a tank top versus like a trained military special ops operative that snipes everybody with a silencer from 10 million yards away.
Are you're male in this, right?
I am
the male character.
Z,
okay. I like his voice.
I think he does it. I like, honestly, again, I really like hearing him talk.
I do too.
I think he's got a good tone.
It's and something soothing, but also kind of like he seems like someone rough, It
feels kind of perfect for the city. Yeah. Of like this mix of like city, like almost accent, Like there's like almost like northeastern, like almost feel like he's got like a Boston accent or something at times. I don't know, like it's weird. But I mean, I've heard people like think that it's not very good, and they think the female Z is way better. I've heard her, and I don't know. I think it sounds fine. I mean, I'm just very satisfied with the male V voice. I think it works. I'm never withdrawn from the immersion of the game by what he's saying. Now, to give that as a counter example, in Fallout 4, you only have 4 dialogue options every time. It's basically yes, no, more information, or sarcastic.
Yeah.
and it's similar to...
That seems like Mass Effect, Paragon, or Renegade.
Yes.
And you're just
so
Paragon is like, oh, we got this under control. Renegade's like grabbing them, throwing them out a window and shit. It's like total opposites.
Exactly. So like you can answer one line, like the basic plot of Fallout 4 is your son is kidnapped, and you're talking to somebody and they're like, what's going on? He's like, oh man, my son is kidnapped. I'm having a hard time. And then you can basically use the same prompt, or like, I'm just going to say that kind of again. You're like, son, he's gone. I'm going to find him. And it's just really? It's just like, you're like, wow. Where the fuck did that delivery come from? Yeah. You know, like it just throws you out of the game. V's not that way. V's great.
V feels
organic. Good. If you're getting to an emotional moment with V, it feels like it's built to that. Like if you're getting loud with Johnny, if you're getting mad at him or something, it feels like we've gotten to there naturally. It doesn't feel like you just chose the mad option and now your character's mad where they weren't before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Talk about Johnny for a second. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, I think Johnny is... It works. It works in ways that maybe it shouldn't, based on it's kind of more than the sum of the whole of its parts, in my opinion, because Keanu Reeves he's a good actor for the parts that he plays. You can't cast him everywhere. And you get a little bit of that kind of what was, especially when he kind of went, I guess it was like Matrix 2 and 3, and that period where he kind of went into like he wasn't as popular, and it was kind of being made fun of a lot. Like Keanu Reeves was kind of like the butt of the bad actor jokes sometimes. Yeah. For a period there, they was. Yeah, I mean, they kind of made like, oh yeah, you're a bad actor like Keanu Reeves, because they just kind of took his performances kind of wooden and kind of like emotionless and things like that. I see what you're talking about. But since kind of John Wick, he's kind of like, no, he's a great actor for certain roles. Like he nails them. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I do think his performance is kind of wooden.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it's fun though. It's almost like it gets a pass.
It's kind of this meta thing though, because it's Keanu Reeves. I like it more.
Exactly. That's why.
And usually I don't like those kinds of things where it's like a meta, like I'm recognizing it because of who he really is in the real world versus who he's presented to be.
Well, it's just you're carrying all his history with him, and that's why.
And I do think the character of Johnny Silverhand is great for him. That works for a Keanu Reeves acting type. I think this jaded kind of like, nihilistic rocker that's kind of like from like the 80s era, 70s era of like rock gods kind of thing. And he's also an anarchist, and that all like this kind of fuck the world attitude that works for Keanu Reeves as an actor. I usually like most of his delivery. Some of it is I will say the way they use his character, I love.
No, I do too. I think it's very smart. And not to get into spoilers, but it's very much Batman Arkham Knight, if you've seen that.
Sure.
So.
And I mean, I think probably most people know the
they
generals.
Have to know by now, surely.
But to me, what I love about him, for one, I love the dynamicism of the relationship, where you really start off not liking him.
For good reason.
For good reasons. Yeah. And he is like in the beginning, like honestly, I came into this game expecting Johnny to be kind of your like, hey, let's go, like kind of from that commercial, we got a city to burn, wake up samurai. Yeah. And being kind of like your motivation to get out there and be who, and then he starts off and he's like just a big dick. Yeah. And an asshole. And you're kind of like, I remember playing, I was like, shit, is he like going to be the bad guy? Like I almost started having those thoughts at times, like he's going to be the ultimate antagonist. Or is he going to be like this partner that I fucking hate every time he comes on screen because he's just a giant asshole to me?
I enjoy it. He adds a little spice to it.
But as that grows, you stop doing that as much. Yeah. And there's some spoiler things I won't get into, but like the more you are with Johnny, the more you guys kind of connect with each other and you argue less and you're building on each other more. Like, oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? And you kind of...
There's even some good like story beats that kind of almost explain that.
There are. Yeah. But my favorite thing about Johnny, bar none, is that he appears in random ass missions. Like, of course he's going to appear in the main quest. Of course he's going to show up to talk to you in big story moments, and you're going to have these big emotional character moments with him. But when he starts showing up in like, oh shit, the police called this in, go to this thing and help. And you do, and then he's like popping up to give quest specific commentary. It's not like your Fallout games where he's like, oh, you need help carrying all that equipment, or they're like it's boilerplate repeated every time. You just get this. They have a list of dialogue prompts, and they just repeat them after a while.
Right.
It's like very specific, written for this quest to give commentary that either gives you more information about the world. It's really good world building. Maybe it's just more information about the quest. Maybe it's how the quest ties in to the main quest. Not even like, oh, this will affect it, but it gives you more perspective on what's going on in the main quest. It's brilliant. It's great.
No, there's things that you just walk around the city and he appears, and then he ends up pointing out basically quests that you I didn't know could be a quest, and I went over, started talking to somebody.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, and they had this really cool little backstory that revealed more about him. And I mean, there's some interesting things there. I mean, the first 8 hours, basically until you get to the 6-8 hours and you get to the title screen, I thought were pretty great. And
they were, except my biggest gripe, and I'll never let go, is that goddamn 6-month montage.
I love that.
No, I wanted to do all that.
But something about it, I think, because again, I don't play these kind of games. I was like, this is cool, like being on this like roller coaster for like 30 seconds.
Sure.
I just thought it was neat, you know, like because the way they cut it together, it felt good. It felt cool, like a movie almost. That's why I probably enjoyed it.
It looked good and it was well cut, but it felt like it cheated the relationship development of you and Jackie. It was like a fast forward button.
It was
on things that could have been. It's basic. Let's start. I mean, you could do it more basic. Like you get into the city and maybe you have 2 quests and then it jumps a month. You know, and then a couple other quests happen. Jump a month.
All those could have been actual missions, and they just did like a playthrough montage or whatever.
I think that's very possible. I could see some kind of free content coming someday where it's changed. I don't know. I mean, that's honestly a hope at mine, because I remember I'm playing, I'm like, okay, I'm meeting Jackie. We're getting into the city. I can't wait to kind of have this first, like looking around. I'm going to step out of the car. Which way am I going to go first? Yeah. And then it's like, boom, now you got a car. Boom, now you got an apartment. Boom, now Jackie's got a girlfriend. Or boom, do you have a girlfriend? I don't know. I don't remember. Boom. It's just like, you're like,
I thought it was cool.
I wanted to do these things. I wanted to do these things. I wanted to pick my first car. I wanted to pick my first apartment. All these kinds of things. Like I wanted to pick all my cybernetic gear.
Now that we're saying it, it does kind of feel like that was obvious things that they probably had that they cut for something.
I think,
or it could be like, again, DLC.
I hope it is. I hope it's that, and I hope it's stuff that might be re-added.
You know, the moment where you first meet Jack. Yeah. I think I even told you this when I was playing it, but you're like, cops arrive, and you're like, it's a kind of a serious moment. Sure. These cops drifted in. They just like basically glitched through. They started drifting through all the pavement, and they just spun right here. And I just started laughing hysterically because it was really funny, and like it just made no sense. And
there's been some funny bugs. I
haven't had that many though.
I haven't had but we're playing on Series X now. To give that, I mean, we're playing on the best way to play besides PC. And there's a funny one where I kept trying to jump in a window, and it would fling me like 100 yards back.
Really?
It was like in the desert.
That's
so
wild.
I'm going to jump through this window and we go, pew!
I wouldn't
get damaged.
Really?
No, it happened. I could repeat it. I video clipped it.
Oh, wow.
Because I was just like, what the fuck is happening?
Wow. That's interesting.
Funny stuff like that. But no, the bugs haven't been bad. But I know we've been talking a lot of positives.
Yeah.
I want to kind of get to where I guess my hiccups are on it. Is there anything else you want to kind of hit it on the positive side of the discussion?
The one thing I'll say about it is that it's a great world. I love meeting the characters. I love talking to them. I like finding Pan Am and going through her process. I like Johnny. And
I'll say too, as an aside to Pan Am, whatever. I know just even from other people's posts that there's some other really cool side characters. Not like I think there are other love interests besides Pan Am that have similar long quests like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there are
in the city that I know that I haven't found yet, and that's great.
Well, I love that. I'll say that is like even at the 30-hour mark, I was driving around and it goes enter new area, and I was like, what? Like it's so big,
right.
It's huge. It's a big map,
giant, and what makes it more giant is the verticality of it.
Yeah, it's wild.
And I'll say that. That's let you finish your point, and I'll cap it off with one more.
No, it's kind of it. I mean, like this place it's massive, and it's You know, it feels like a really good world. And I've never really done a headphones kind of thing, but I always wear my headphones.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to this update with like the ray tracing and everything else, because I think it's going to be even more immersive. And
for sure,
I feel like it's one of those things, we're fixing it to the negatives. If they had just brought I think I have a decent experience with it.
Yeah.
If we had brought all those positives and then took away even a lot of these, a fraction of these negatives, and then had all these ray tracing things, like all that kind of stuff, it would have went down as like a great launch. And it's really sad that they were on the cusp of it.
It would have had to be it would have had to work on old consoles.
I know.
As long as it didn't do that, it still would have been.
And they should
still have people suing them.
And they should have just nexed that and made it in focus. Anyway, they knew what they were doing. Yeah. We know that. Negatives.
Well, first, I do want to touch on something positive, and it's important. I want to talk a little bit about the combat and kind of the gameplay loop there, just quickly, because
I was going to talk about the negatives on that.
And there will be some, but I think there's some positive to acknowledge. For one, the city is gorgeous, and my God, the double jump is the best thing I've ever experienced in a FPS open world sandbox game, and every game needs to have one because it's magical. It's being able to jump on roofs anywhere, basically, and like the city, it was built to kind of have these ways to get up on these giant, train tracks or wherever you can get. And it's wonderful. Like, it took me a while to buy. It's like pretty expensive, like 35, 45,000. Once I got it, and it was just like, it changed the game as far as movement and exploration, because then I come upon like a gang hideout. I'm like, all right, what am I gonna do? I'm like, oh, there's a roof right there. I wonder if I can find a way. And I jog around, and I'll find it may be like 2 miles away, but I'll find a way to jump on this building, jump on this one, and get all the way over there. And then I'm on the roof, and they can't see me, they can't touch me, and I can take them down. And how I usually take them down is my quick hacks. Because for me, that's what I invested a shit ton in.
I hate hacking.
I love it, hacking. I hit RB, and my favorite, I've invested a lot, and I've upgraded my OS a couple of times. So I have a lot of RAM to attack people with, and I have a lot of great perks. I have a perk where if I kill someone with a quick hack, it automatically refills my RAM. All of it.
That's cool.
And stuff
like that. I'm a brawler. I'm mean with my fist. That's what I always though.
I can always get to that if I need. I'll pull out my mantis blades, and the mantis blades are fucking good. They're very satisfying. The melee combat for an FPS is pretty damn good for me.
It is. It
feels pretty. I mean, I think it would always feel better in a third person perspective, but it feels pretty good for a first person game.
It does. The shooting's good.
I think
it's just not.
It's great for it's. I mean, it's Far Cry, but a little better.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's Far Cry, which has usually been one of the better FPS open world shooters, just in terms of mechanics, but a little better. But back real quick to the quick hacking. I think it's great. You have one quick hack where I tell someone, first of all, I always do the ice break. So you quick hack and everybody's now vulnerable and take less RAM. So usually what I'll do is I'll find a small group and I'll hit one of them with the call backup quick hack, which makes another one get to them. And then I hit one of them with the contagion quick hack, which is super powerful. And I've buffed it up where it does triple damage now. And basically it infects them with a disease that starts slowly degrading their health. And anyone within a proximity gets affected. Really? And if that person walks next to another person, they get affected. And so you can just kind of like domino effect a whole team.
You're a much smarter player than I am.
So I'm jumping on a roof, and I'm like, you come over here. I want you to turn off your vision or something. I'm just gonna fuck with you, and then I'm gonna cook contagion. And I'll almost, and then there'll be one guy left, and I'll walk up to him slowly and just mantis him or something.
See, I'm like
a badass way.
I sneak in for a second, and then the guy goes, "Hey," and I go, "Fuck, here we go," and I start killing them all. That's how I roll.
That is So I do like the quick hacking, and I will say too that the reputation system has produced some of my favorite moments in the game. There was one moment where I walked into a cafe for a totally different reason. And I don't remember, I was buying something or I was meeting, I don't know. And a group of muggers just come in everybody freeze, everybody shut the fuck up, blah, blah, blah. And so I see on my replies is a reputation reply. I'm and he's like, do you motherfuckers know who you're looking at right now? I'm the guy that did this, and he references an optional quest. Mm-hmm. You're I did that. You know who took all those marauders down? That was me. What do you think I could do to you? And they just oh fuck, and start slowly backing away and just run away.
Really?
And it was just Oh my God. That felt so good.
That's cool.
Because I've mainly done side quests. So my reputation is like 40 or close to like really high.
Yeah,
I have a
mine's
high
probably in like
reputation.
my 30s, I think.
It's 40, maybe 50. I don't remember, but it's very high. And like, I can do shit. Like people know me when I walk around like, oh, that guy, you know, but like that's happened twice. There was another moment where it was like, take a look at me. I don't think you recognize me.
Right.
Yeah. Do you know who I am now? Okay. Like it's just like that kind
Robert
of
De Niro. Yeah.
that bad. Exactly. It's just kind of like, do you know what I could do without blinking to you?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, it's that guy.
That's
and
cool.
it just feels like the world is responding in a meaningful way to your quest. And I love that.
No, that's really cool.
That moment when that first happened, it made me smile huge. I think I texted you about it like right after it happened.
I don't remember that part. But to kind of piggyback off the combat, I'll say this. One thing, kind of jump into the negatives here. I really think these characters that you're fighting against are overpowered.
Really?
I feel like a lot of the time I will walk up on a gang and they will shoot me. They'll shoot me once or whatever. I'm just like, and I'll die. And I'm like, are you serious? It's crazy sometimes.
See, I don't have that experience. I've barely died.
I've died so many times. It is crazy how many times
I've died a few times, but they've mainly been me being an idiot. But like,
I've died a lot.
I've died a
I'm not
couple
like
to
a
like
dumb
cyber
player.
psychosis people, like the little mini bosses.
Yeah. No,
You know
those guys are hard. Yeah.
But I mean, because I'm always picking up weapons or I've got it. Honestly, like for me, I usually use quick hacks. I mean, quick hacks are killer on the cyber psychosis guys. It's like their main weakness.
That's the thing. Hacks. I don't. I'm a brawler, so I don't have that.
Do you use guns?
Yeah, I do. But even then, it's like sometimes you shoot people and it's like, it doesn't do as well as other things. But I'll say this: the thing that really bothers me is you don't know when you're picking missions how hard something is. It says very high, whatever,
or moderate.
But I wish it would. And again, this is I guess I don't play games like this. I wish it would say, hey, you need to be at least level 30.
That's what it's saying without telling you specifically.
Yeah,
if it says that the danger level is moderate, it means you're leveled enough. If it means it's high, it means you're slightly underleveled.
Yeah,
if it's very high, it means you're very underleveled.
But I feel like it should be a little more clear, though. I mean, I feel like it's not clear enough.
I don't mind it too much
because almost
to me it feels immersion level. Like it adds to an immersion level. Your intel would say the danger is moderate versus high versus. It wouldn't say you have to be level 31.
But at the same time, you're picking up 5,000 pieces of items. How would you know what I'm saying?
That's getting into one of my problems with it is the endless. I mean, I have to change weapons every mission because I always get a better one.
No, there's tons of them.
And honestly, I'll tell you too, some things, I mean, I've invested a lot into blades. So my mantis blades are really deadly, really deadly. Like there's several perks that are just like 20% more damage. And I've done that for some of my weapons too, like shotguns and sniper rifles. I have that. Or there's sniper rifles and there's like tactical rifles.
See, I've been building up all my fists so I can get that. I can beat the brawler side quest. That's why I think.
That may be why you're having a hard time with enemies.
I've spent like 8 hours just working on this one. Like, because those boxers, and I've got them all except the final one, but they're fucking tough, man.
Yeah, no, I've only done 2 of them.
It's crazy.
I did the one where I had to fight 2 at once.
That's the easy. That's the first one.
It wasn't hard.
That's the easiest one.
It wasn't hard, no.
No, that's not that bad. But when you get to like that big girl, she hits you one time, you're done. And then, and that's like me maxed out on my fit. Anyway, it's hard.
So that might be a reason you're having a hard time. Is you might need to put some points in guns and armor.
Well, I just got all that done.
You can also do like athletics.
Sure,
I added to my health. I've buffed my health like 2 or 3 times. So I have like a much bigger health bar. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, to go back to a little to the negatives for me, like the items situation, and that leads to the UI and the inventory management is horrible.
The inventory is awful.
It's horrible. Every time I open it, I'm overwhelmed with information. It doesn't matter which page I'm on. There's way too much numbers and boxes and like level. It's just like
it feels overwhelming.
Streamline this for me.
Yeah,
it does feel overwhelming. The crafting menu is the worst part of it for me. And the breaking, like where you're choosing things to break down. I haven't done barely anything with crafting. I haven't really invested into it.
I've heard some people a lot of health.
Oh, really? I haven't done any. See, I don't have to. I find health everywhere.
See, I craft. I have like 60,000
health. I have so much health. Wow, you must die a lot.
I have to craft a lot of health.
You must die a lot.
I do die a lot. I do die a lot in this game. It is.
And this may be honestly part of like the RPG-ness you aren't as familiar with is that everyone, at least a lot of people when they're familiar with this, they go with a build. Like I want to be a sneaky sniper. So I'm going to invest all my perks in things that up my sniping, up my sneaking, which I have a lot of sneak too. So like they're looking at it as like, what are you gonna do? You min max?
Yeah, it makes sense. Right? Yeah,
and that's definitely
I'm
a part
used to
of
picking,
having fun in these games. Is like min maxing, getting to the point where like I am now the embodiment of death, and nothing can even get close to me. I'll just blow you all away.
It does feel kind of it feels kind of repetitive with the combat sometimes, and what keeps it interesting more so is the dialogue in between the combat and like some of those situations. That's what kind of keeps it going.
And I agree. I felt that way less when I got into quick hacking and mixing that into it, because then it's like quick hack, blind that guy, run over here, stab him in the back with mantis blades silently, look over here, pop a guy, look over here, like activate that machine to distract some guys, run over here. Like it becomes more of a dynamic, like you start feeling like
Batman.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you really do. Like where you're using the arsenal of your abilities to take down the situation, and that feels really good. I when I get to a mission, when I start engaging, and usually, like you said, they've got an interesting hook of some kind.
They do,
even if it's minor, even if it's like.
Have you done the Delos stuff yet?
Remind me.
It's like the AI taxi service.
Oh yeah, I've done a few of those.
Have you done recovery? Have you done the whole thing?
You've already recovered all the cabs?
Yeah, I did the whole. I'm pretty sure I did the final thing for that, which is beyond recovering the cabs.
You recovered. There was like 30.
No, there's like 7.
No, there's way more than that.
No, there's like 7. I did them all. Yeah, no, that and then
all the they have all interesting personalities.
Yeah,
right?
they're really cool. Yeah, I did all those. Like,
so I haven't done the car. I've
spent like 3 hours doing that, but it's got some cool stuff. At the very end, it was like some interesting things were happening. I feel like I chose there has been times, again, I feel kind of stupid sometimes, but
sure,
I didn't understand like, oh, this color meant like more information at the beginning, and this color meant like choices. And then I was like, fuck, I didn't mean to hit that or whatever, and I feel like I might have changed some important character dynamics and
yeah.
And that's just the thing for me. I know you said that this is the kind of game that, especially with updates, everything else, that you'll come back to.
Sure.
With different whatever. This is a oneer for me.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm done with this campaign, it has to be like ungodly amazing, the ending, or I will never pick this thing up ever again, probably. Maybe for DLC, maybe.
Sure. And usually that's takes place after the main quest, or sometimes it does. So the combat is hit and miss, but I found a rhythm that I like in it. To me, some of the biggest issues with this game is everything that happens in between. Okay, so I load in. What's the first thing I'm gonna do? I gotta find a mission. How do I do that? Go to my menu. I gotta go to this long ass list of clunky,
it's huge,
cluttered UI to find a mission that I want to do. Or look at the map.
And you have to go to your map to then hit down button to pull up your missions.
And then the map is. It looks good. It's less functional than I'd like. It feels a little clunky, a little hard to navigate, a little bit. Everything kind of looks the same.
Well, there's also so many different icons on it.
Yes,
it's kind of crazy.
Can be overwhelming. So you're just kind of moving around your cursor, like, oh, that one sounds fine, I guess. I don't know. That one sounds good. And there's no way to engage with those without going into the menu. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you can see like one of those like. The police, like, hey, the police or the MCPD are requesting assistance here.
Right.
And you'll see something like, okay, I can just drive to that. But otherwise, I have to go to the menu for anything significant that I want to do. And for me, like CDPR, whoever's listening to this, I want to live in this game. I want to put my headphones on and pretend I'm V for 4 hours straight. But when but a big thing for me in that is exploration. Like I want to pick a direction and go and find a 10 things cool to do. And I'll give you an example like Fallout. I think Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, this is actually a part of their design philosophy, but they've nailed it. Where in any Fallout game, any Elder Scrolls game, there's a point where you build your character. It's like a tutorial dungeon or like your vault where you're building your character, basic stuff. And then you are released to the world. And it literally is pick a direction, go. And you turn in any direction, you see something interesting. Maybe it's a landmark. Maybe it's a building. Maybe it's, I don't know, a glowing part of the map on a mountain. There's going to be something you're like, what the fuck is that? I want to go check it out. And no matter where you go, there will be a reward for it. Maybe it's a cool, unique weapon. Maybe it's like an item that boosts a stat permanently or like a collectible. Maybe it's, I mean, if the jackpot, I don't know why I was saying gold. The jackpot is you find a quest and you've stumbled upon this moment. You're exploring a cave, and all of a sudden you find an injured soldier, and there's something in the cave. Got the rest of my squad. Can you go get their dog tags? I don't know what it is. Like you organically happen upon a quest, and it's just there to do. And then you engage with it, you move on, and you're done. And you're still in that same place. You go explore somewhere else. That's not possible in project.
I definitely feel like, okay, I'm done with this one.
Now I have to go to my list.
What sounds interesting?
Yes.
Or what can I even do based on my abilities?
Right.
Versus very high versus not very high. You know.
And what's so sad about it is that you've got a beautiful location in Night City where you could do this so well. Like I want it to be like, I'm just going to start driving because it is fun to drive around and just look at the city, which you can't do if you're driving to a specific location because you got to look at the tiny ass mini map.
Yeah.
So I wanted to drive around there and then see some kind of big event that is a part probably of a quest I have in my list, but I can just go see it and engage with it and kind of organically, work with it, do it, and not be this like, okay, I have to pick it, I have to choose it, I have to select it, and then I have to drive there, do it, and then I'm done. And where do I go next? It's not a game where I can just go, I'm going to drive in this direction and see what happens. I'll see some cool shit. Yeah. Maybe run into some like minor police encounters, but I'm not going to be sucked into this world where you can play a whole Fallout game and never look at your quest list. You can just organically do most of it and never have to look, because the game, when you run into certain areas, the game responds to that. It's like, oh, you're here. Let's have this event happen, or this character's going to run up and talk to you, whatever that is, And to me, that is such a huge stumbling block for this kind of game for me, because every time I pull up a menu, I'm pulled out. Mm-hmm. Every time I open up my quest list, I'm now thinking at a meta level about the game. I'm now thinking, well, I guess, what do I want? More money so I can go buy a new, cybernetic attachment or upgrade. I guess I'll do that. Well,
it does feel like
here's a quest. I guess I'll go do this one.
The game does kind of feel like work sometimes.
It does. And
if that
to
makes
me,
sense.
It needs to feel like organic. It needs to feel like you can just go in a direction, you encounter the world as it is, and it will respond to you wherever you are. And it will be something to do, something interesting. If there's a building to go in, don't give me the same generic items that I can pick up anywhere else. Yeah. Because I can pick those up anywhere, and they're like,
it does
here, pick up a dildo. Here, pick up bubblegum. Here, I pick it up because I'm used to being in these Fallout games.
I pick up everything.
Especially in the last one where every item you picked up was junk, but it translated to usable building materials. And so I'm like picking up shit. I'm like, why do I have this? I don't know. Or I'm like, again, it even goes back to like the weapon issue. Like, I find a gun. I'm like, oh, I love how this gun feels. I love the damage it does. I love kind of the, just the feeling of it, the fire rate, whatever it is. And then you find another one. You're like, damn, this is like 200 more points damage.
But it looks uglier.
I hate the way it shoots. Like it feels like shit to use.
Yeah.
There's just these little things that you're having to metagame at a level that you don't need to have to. Like, the game could allow you to do these things in an immersive environment where you're still in the game world, in kind of the character headspace, without having to pull out and be like, okay, I'm a gamer now. What do I, as a gamer, want out of this situation? Versus in a Fallout game, we're like, okay, like, I've just finished setting up food for my settlement. Well, we need water now. Yeah. I got to go get water. Oh, I don't have circuitry for this new thing I need. Shit, we're somewhere. Okay, there's something over there, like a satellite dish. I bet there's a building there. I'm going to run over there, fight whatever's there, and see if I can find what I need for the settlement. And then on your way, you're going to probably have 10 random encounters that are literally like, the map is designed where there's certain areas of the map where it has like a, it's basically rolling a dice, and it's going to give you one of 30 different encounters that could happen there. And they're only going to happen once. There's just this dynamicism to the game that is really missing from Cyberpunk. And it feels like the glue that should be sticking all these things that are usually pretty good. Like the combat systems, I would say it's pretty good. I would say there's been horribly worse combat systems in other FPS games, especially in RPG. The menu system, the UI, that's shit. But I mean, the quests, discovering locations, collectibles, all of this needs to happen in a way where I don't ever have to look at the map. I never have to look at my menu. Otherwise, it's hard for me to want to come back, because it feels like I'm going to have to do all this, like you said, work to get to the fun part.
Yeah.
And that's a design flaw for
One
me.
thing I kind of wish was even more. I feel like, and maybe I'm just not doing the game correctly, but I feel like there's so many different kind of types of guns, not types of guns, but like just basically different kinds of guns, and sometimes they just look a little different, but they kind of similar to other ones. I kind of wish they had really just like maybe focused on like, let's just say example, 10 guns. So it's like more personal customization.
Yeah, it's it's very looter shooter.
It feels very Borderlands to me.
Yeah, looter. I mean, Borderlands introduced looter shooters
Yeah.
to the game industry.
It feels really like, okay. So I don't even know the concept.
Borderlands
I know the concept, but I don't know the
Borderlands
term.
1 is why we have Destiny.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so it's like you're getting here's that gun from earlier, but it's a different shade of color.
Yes.
But it's more powerful, it's less powerful.
Yes.
Or here's a legendary gun, but it's also really weak. Like it's like here's a cool gun you want in a quest, but it's
here's
weaker
there's
than the
attachments. But here's an attachment like I did early in the game. It was like, this attachment makes your gun non-lethal. I'm like, oh, that could be useful. And so I'm like, I wonder what it's like. I'll throw it on this gun and try it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'll take it off. Can't take it off.
Really exciting.
Fucked. It's now the permanent non-lethal weapon. I was like, are you fucking?
No, yeah, you're right.
It was like
I read
my
that
favorite
online,
gun
actually.
at the time. And I was like, I just lost my favorite gun for trying a mod.
Yeah, no, it's
like there's
no, it's why it's that, and also the clothing. Like I feel like I look ridiculous.
They need a transmogrifier where you can wear what you want and still get like at least change the colors of things.
I'm like, man, this looks stupid, but it's more. I have more armor.
I will say, I've usually I'm willing to sacrifice at least a small amount of armor for fashion.
Do you feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, I've found a few clothing shops, but it feels like they're just always not good options.
No, I mean that's a huge. I mean the shops suck.
Yeah, I feel like
I mean the gun shops.
Suck.
I never I find there's no reason to ever buy a gun because there is a guarantee you will find a better version of it on the next mission.
Yeah, and I feel like the gun shops are always better after I visit them because I've given them all my other guns, and it's like now their inventory actually good.
I would buy. Wait, no, I sold that. I mean, I wouldn't buy that.
Yeah, so it's that and the clothing. I just feel
you can't get a haircut.
No,
the fuck. There's never been an RPG like this where you can't change your character's hairstyle.
Good thing is I'm happy with my hair. Like I don't want a haircut.
No,
personally.
I mean that's not as a big deal to me. But but it is like in Fallout 4, I really enjoy like changing my character's look over time.
Wouldn't it be a cool feature? Your hair grew throughout the game, and then you get it cut. That'd be
it's
amazing.
almost like they did that in The Witcher 3.
Did they really?
Yes,
that's cool.
The beard was dynamic.
I haven't got that far.
If you cut the beard, you can't. You have to wait to grow it back.
Wow.
I don't know if you can cut Geralt's hair though. I think he has to say ponytail.
And they've had 10 years and they didn't put it in Cyberpunk.
Yeah. No, there was obviously some issues
CD
with
Projekt Red.
management.
All right. Well, that's it. See, and to me, those are kind of big things. Like for the game that I hear everyone what they were expecting, and then also just in RPGs in general, I feel like the things that I've witnessed, I was like, oh, we haven't figured that out yet. Like, because I'm not in this genre, so I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like,
yeah, no,
it's not really grabbing
true.
me.
It feels like what they did, they got the bigger elements or the more core elements largely right. The story, really good. The acting, the dialogue, really good, and to have a good open world RPG that's story driven, those have to be good, or it's. I mean, honestly, the other side of this example is Fallout 4, which has some of the best mechanics and systems of an open world RPGs yet. Like, it's really done a lot of good things for the genre, not only just the Fallout series, but the story is ass.
Yeah.
And it's told in a very kind of it's this rudimentary story which boxes you into these silly kind of like plot driven holes where you're like, oh nope, this is option A or option B, and you're like, obviously there should be an option C here, and you're just not letting me do it. I mean, I can literally walk over there and do it, but the game won't let me.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It's like things like that. And then you've got Cyberpunk, which has a great story. I haven't finished it, but I have no reason to doubt it will end any worse than it's. I'm about halfway through. But the systems, the mechanics, they're all either not working at all, or they work, but they work in isolation and they don't connect with everything else in the world. Right. It's like they got the big stuff, but the small itty bitty things they just didn't pay attention to, didn't consider, didn't have time to get to. I think that's probably the more likely option. And so you've got this weird discombobulated game that it's fun when you're doing the core parts, engaging with Johnny Silverhand or going through a cool story mission. but it's not fun when you're doing anything else.
Yeah.
And an open world game is defined, or at
By
least
everything
a good one
else.
Everything else needs to be just as appealing as the story.
Right.
Like that's why you have a sandbox. That's why you want to go everywhere when there's somewhere cool to go everywhere. If it's a sandbox with nowhere interesting to go, then what's the point of the sandbox? Just make it linear.
And you sound pretty intelligent on this matter. You sound pretty. No, I'm just saying. You sound like you know what you're talking about.
I think this is just, to me, this is my bread and butter, this kind of game. Like we've talked about in the past, you love your linear games,
Yes.
your movie-like experiences in games. It's on the exact opposite. I want to create a character and I want to do whatever the fuck I want. I want to be the director of my game experience. I want to choose what this character wants.
Yeah.
No, like I want to be the god of my own story and choose. Like I'm all the time. I make these like I'm kind of a dork, but like in Fallout, like I'll play it and I'll start my character kind of as this clean cut, no scars, not a lot of facial hair, like because you're coming out of a vault, you've been frozen, so you shouldn't be coming out with like you should look good. You're
in your
200 years
opinion,
old.
go on. I'm just kidding.
And then 30, 20 levels in, I've been through some shit. I'll go to the barber and I'm going to have like a rattier hairstyle. I'll have a beard. Maybe I'll add a scar. Yeah. And then I get to the end of the game and I'm like, fucking like, walking scar man or something. After things I've done. But to me, that's so fun. And it adds to kind of my own pseudo narrative that I'm telling inside of this narrative. And like those games, I could probably just play those kinds of games for the rest of my life. Like if I had to choose a style, I could probably be pretty damn happy. In those games we're getting more. I mean, Skyrim or Elder Scrolls 6, which the rumors are it's Hammerfell. We'll see. Is coming out. I mean, that's a game that when Skyrim came out, I probably played 300, 400, 500 hours of Skyrim. Whenever Starfield comes out, that's coming out before Elder Scrolls 6. My life will be. Significant portions of my life are going to these games.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think I don't know if I'm knowledgeable as much as like I know what I want.
Right. No,
I
makes
know
sense.
what I like. And I am plugged into these communities. I know kind of what the zeitgeist and the conversations are happening about, but
I do want to talk just for a second about some of the glitches that I've experienced. Sure. And I honestly, full disclosure, again, we're on the Series X. I haven't had many glitches at all, maybe 5 or 6. And I'd say 5 out of the 6 are nothing. Like the cars driving through the pillars. Yeah. I've seen other people experience this too, but like the palm trees like bending over matrix wise.
I didn't actually see that until someone else was like, "Oh, this is weird." And then the next time I played, I was like,
I think I texted you. Yeah. So I saw that, and then there's other things like,
I've recorded some. I need to look at
very minor stuff. But the thing that really got me, I was like, man, I wonder if this is happening a lot to me, or I don't understand it. Was this mission where I went into this bar, or not? It's like kind of like this club where it's like a sex club. Yeah, and you're supposed to
the main mission.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and you're supposed to go in there and talk to this sex worker, basically. Yeah. And
it's kind of a big character moment.
It's a big character moment.
It's kind of you're expecting it to just be like a sex scene.
Yeah. And you were basically like, how'd you feel about it? And I was like, what do you mean? Like I walked in there and I had to start killing everybody because they started fighting me. And he was like, no, there's this great character beat. And like you taught, and I was like, what? That did not happen to me. And he's like, what'd you do? And I was like, this. He's like, no. He's like, restarted. And I was like, oh, fine. So I restarted it from my last save, walked in there. Yep. No one tried to kill me. Yep. I sit down with her. I had this big cathartic moment as V.
Yeah, it's kind of a huge moment for your character.
It's a huge moment. And I was like, oh my God, this is really nice. Like the music, the cinematography, my dialogue choices. Yep. Everything felt good. Yeah. And then it still ended up on the same path. You end up
having to fight people, of course.
The same path. But anyway, I was like, wow, how many times does this happen to me and I don't know it? And the only reason I did know it is because I texted you about it. Yeah. And that's kind of scary when that kind of stuff happens.
And I think definitely part of that is bugs. Part of that is the nature of RPGs. And one reason I love them is that you can do it either way anytime. Yeah. If you want, like there's runs of Fallout. They're really interesting, fun runs. Like they'll do a YouTube series. It's literally called the Kill Everything. And literally all they do that whole game is literally anything they do is like kill it. Every NPC, everything, lock themselves out of every single quest basically the game can offer. And that's just like a fun challenge.
But it's different when the game is giving you that option and then or taking it away from you. Because I did nothing different than both playthroughs.
And that is an issue for sure.
That's the issue I have with it.
The bug part of that. And like I said, I've experienced, I think I'm mentioned that where I've tried to climb in that window and got shot like 100 feet back every time I tried to climb in the same window. There's been a few others. I'm trying to remember if there's any like mission breaking ones. I don't think I've had any, but I've been afraid of them because I know other people have had them. Like many of they had to reload a save from like 20 hours ago to fix it.
If that happens, I'll stop playing the game. If I lose 20 hours, I'm done.
I actually did have one issue like that where I started this side quest and then halfway through I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I just kind of bailed.
Yeah.
And I think it glitched because I started and I was like, this feels like a longer one. I was just kind of want to earn some quick cash and move on. And I was like, this was long. I was like, I'm not really feeling this. So I was trying to like leave and I think it fucked it up because I tried to start another side quest and then it started kind of breaking on me. But anyway.
I mean, I had one mission where there's this long drawn out thing and you end up driving up to this guy. And if you walk past like a certain point, it's basically like if you stay in your car and let the NPC with you walk up to him first, the mission carries on. But if you walk past the NPC while he's talking, the guy pulls out his gun and kills you. Yeah. And there's no indication that that was going to happen.
They don't do a great job of providing. It feels like the game expects you, and I mean, this is part maybe the problem of the 6-month montage is that they expect you to know these socioeconomic kind of systems.
Sure.
Like who hates who, whose team is on. Like again, there was one thing where I was like killing this certain gang. It was, I can't remember what gang it was. I think it was like the Japanese gang, maybe. And I was just murdering them. I did all these missions and I was just like fucking them up every time. And then I started taking missions from this new handler. And then halfway through, I'm like, you're the boss of that gang.
Oh, really?
I was like, why are you giving me missions? I'm a little confused.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like I was like, what?
There's some weird stuff like that.
Right there? Like, and it feels like the game. It's not that it is like just deciding not to tell me. It's almost like, oh, you should already know this in a way that feels like it doesn't feel like I'm given and again, I think this goes back to my biggest issue with 6-month montage is that you're not given a gradual, let's learn about this city at the same time V is.
It does feel like, hey, you're dropped into it after 8 hours, but still,
in 6 months, V knows everything about the city, but you don't.
Yeah,
you weren't there. I mean, you saw a snapshot, a montage.
Yeah.
But how much better would it be if, like, you're as V both entering the city at the same time, and neither of you know what these gang areas are or what these gangs are, and so you're having to discover that through quests.
Narratively, and granted, you're a nomad, and I'm a street guy. Sure. Narratively, it seems like I've always been a Night City.
Street Kid, yes, that's a different. I was a nomad because again, I was like, oh, it makes sense. I told you this literally. I'm like, it makes total sense to be a nomad at the first playthrough because nomads don't know anything about the city, and I don't either. So I'll just be on that journey with it.
And they kind of fuck you.
And then my second playthrough, I'll be a street kid because I'll know everything, and it'll be like, now I really feel like a street kid. But no, I'm a nomad, and either way, no matter what path you choose, you get a 6-month montage.
Yeah.
And it definitely feels like the past that they hyped up of like, oh, you'll have a different experience. You don't. I mean, you get some different dialogue choices. I will say you get a ton of extra dialogue choices with Pan Am because she's a nomad.
Ooh,
so you're constantly being like, I understand that because I've come from my clan. Oh yeah. You like empathize with her a ton because you're like, I'm a nomad. I get it. Like you must be missing your people, like all these kinds of stuff, which feels good. But I'm assuming you can still have a perfectly good relationship with Pan Am without those.
Mine feels solid so far.
I mean, exactly.
I haven't checked in a week or so, but
I mean, I'm saying like it's cool, but it ends up just being flavor text, and not like actually changing the game.
Yeah,
yeah.
I will say this. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot there. I feel like we could talk a lot about it. Real quick, final thoughts, like a real wrap up. I feel like we've touched upon it all real quick, but give me your 30-second final note on Cyberpunk 2077 so far.
My final note is this game is fixable, in my opinion. I think there is not a short list of UI adjustments and changes and just rehauls, honestly, that can fix a lot of my biggest gripes with the world. Mm-hmm. I think there's things like, again, just show me the path to my destination when I'm driving on the road. Like, it's a goddamn Cyberpunk game. Why can I not get an implant that does that? Why can I not get an implant that's like, here's the path, I'll show you in like 3D? It's like, that should be a thing. If it's not a default thing, it should be something I purchase and upgrade. So like that is one. Let me enjoy the sights of the city. That's an easy fix. Make the UI system for the missions and all that stuff just less bloated and convoluted, because when I get on there, it's like, shit, there's so many missions to pick from. I'm kind of overwhelmed with choice, and then sometimes I don't pick one or whatever that may be. Fix the loot situation. That's maybe a bigger, taller ask, but just stop dropping weapons so often. That should be an easy tweak. Drop them less often. Like only get really powerful new weapons. Like if you do a big quest, or like make it feel like you earn it. Because now I don't feel like I earn any of my weapons. I feel like they're just like candy on the side of the road. I'm just picking it up. They really
are. Yeah.
You know how you eat candy on the side of the road? Like that. I don't know where that analogy came from.
I like that. I mean, I imagined Elf like getting gum.
Exactly. This is Elf. We're Elf in Night City.
Yeah, basically. That's what I imagined.
Do things like that. I think and I'm not a game developer, but to me, in my head, it seems like there should be some creative fixes to being able to engage with the world more organically. Maybe you just have quests. Maybe just a person like with a question mark over the head. Maybe that's all you need, so that I can know, I don't have to look at my map or my quest list. I just run to that person and talk, and I'll start a quest. I don't know what it'll be, but that's okay. Maybe it's like putting a marker over a location. If there's like, because a lot of these quests are like your handler saying, go here and do something.
Well, so much to ask for them to go, like they did in Witcher 3. Hey, come here. I need help. Like that feels like normal at this point.
That would bridge a lot of some of me as someone that wants to live in this world.
But I guess it kind of makes sense.
That would make a big difference.
Technology that they would call you. I mean, I don't know. That's where it kind of gets kind of weird.
Again, like give it into the HUD UI, like work it into the lore of the world, that like you buy a new upgrade for your eyes, and now you can see like integrated into the world all the quest opportunities. Like maybe a business, if you look at, or maybe just easier, scan it. If you turn your scanner on, it will reveal a quest person you can go talk to, or a building that has a quest tied to it that you can just run in and they'll start engaging.
This person texted you, so that's the building they're in, or they operate in.
Exactly. You could like scan it and be like, oh, this is related to this quest. They wanted you to do this, 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 and this. That would fix a shit ton for me.
Yeah.
It can be better. And honestly, that's a big reason why I've dropped off. At this point, I've kind of decided like, the potential improvements that could be made, and I think that are rather minor in the scope of things, that could drastically change my experience with the game, to me are worth waiting for. Or even if they don't ever come, they're worth waiting for the chance of.
Are they worth where you'll restart your whole game?
I don't know. I don't want to. I kind of already feel a bit attached to this playthrough.
A lot of work.
If I do, I'll probably pick a different life path. But that's even another thing where I'm like, I mean, DLC, you could just patch out the 6 months and add in some more interesting gradual quests to get you there. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think could be fixed, and I'm hoping that will be fixed. I'm hoping the backlash, the outcry will help some of that happen. But as a final statement, I mean, I like the game, but it is unequivocally the most disappointing game I think that has ever come out in the history of video games.
Wow.
In terms of hype compared to reception.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've never seen
different numbers.
I've never seen something like
impact.
this.
I mean, you could say that E.T. had a more substantial impact on the market because it like crashed the video game market by itself in some ways. But yeah, like this is, I mean, investors are suing them.
Yeah, no,
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, it's a big news story. Always.
Investors are suing them for deceiving them about the state of the game. Like it's wild.
No, I mean,
so it is, and it sucks to say, because I was one of the ones. I was the conductor on the hype train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was choo-choo the choo-choo. You know what I mean? Like I was ready to go. I was ready to live in this game. I was ready to not play another game for all of 2021. I really would have, if this game had been what we were told it was and what we think it could be. But yeah. I mean, that's another thing. The whole police system was supposed to be a GTA like
awful.
one.
Yeah.
You can just shoot them and just run away. There's absolutely zero consequences to any sort of murder, which can sometimes be funny.
Yeah.
And like if someone cuts me off a track, I'm like, well, I guess I'll kill you now because there's no consequences. But you know what I mean?
No, there's a lot of things
all that
like
to
that.
say, yeah, it's the most disappointing game in the history of video games.
Wow.
And I think it
Bold.
can. I don't think that's bold. I think if you.
No, I mean, it's not bold. I just think it's like, I don't know.
It's not disappointing in
just
terms
weird.
of. It's not the worst video game ever.
It's just weird that
Easily.
a month ago to now, like I thought, even like through our conversations, I thought you would have had a higher goal. And I think considering you have a very good review for them, I think considering everything that's happened, our experiences, our problems, their issues, I think you have a good review. And I mean, even like for me, I think the world's great. I love the dialogue.
Yeah.
I like the mechanics good enough in terms of like first person mechanics. The driving's okay. I feel, I do feel like the driving in the map sometimes is you have to get used to it. And the reason I picked Motorcycle A, it's cool, but the big thing is that it's easier to drive around.
Easier. Because it's so much easier to take corners.
It's smaller.
Though
to
sometimes
corners.
you hit a ramp or something, and you fly,
dude. You like Superman for a minute.
It's kind of funny because like, well, what the fuck's gonna happen now?
Yeah, no, there's some interesting things
but
there.
it's funny, but like in a way that's like
it's realistic. I mean, kind of.
No.
I mean, maybe not going super far.
There's been times where I've like not been going fast and hit a small like side rail and just.
Yeah, maybe
like, it's just been like, well, I'm a rocket ship now.
But I think that if they fix all those kind of things we talked about, then I think I'd enjoyed it more. I think one thing for me that I miss from my big Uncharted's and my God of Wars is I feel like and while there are some cool moments, I feel like they're not blockbustery enough for me. And maybe that just comes with the territory of it's such a big game that they can't make those huge moments. I'm talking, and I
specifically, I mean, about I'll call it the inciting incident quest. I mean, did you feel like that? I mean, that felt pretty big, like cool set piece. And
I think my favorite piece so far is after that is when you're introduced to Johnny for the first time.
Sure.
That little small little piece was
like when you're in his head.
Yeah. That to me was cool. I was like, this is cool because he moved different.
Sure.
There was some higher stakes involved.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool. And I feel like it hasn't lived up to that moment. That was 8 hours in, and I've put in 22 more hours since then. And
well, I will say, I mean, I haven't spoiled myself at all, which I'm happy with.
Yeah, I don't know the ending. I really don't.
It seems like the ending is pretty.
I could probably guess the ending.
In fact, I mean, I'm kind of where I'm at with the main story is I'm about to do a quest with Takamura that sets up kind of a big event.
The big parade?
Yes.
That's where I'm at.
But I'm doing the mission before that.
That's what I just did.
That's where I stopped. I haven't done it yet.
Where you're like infiltrating the facility?
You're about to do something to prepare for the parade.
I've done that.
Yeah, I haven't done that.
That's literally where I stopped. It's weird how we're so close.
It is interesting. And I have a feeling the parade mission will be a big spectacle.
I'm hoping. It seems like
it feels like, again, I think if you probably did only the main story and finished it all in 20 hours, you might get more of that consistent blockbustery moments.
Yeah.
I'd be curious.
Maybe. And again, it will ultimately always, no matter movie, film, comic, book, video game, if the ending is not good, that's where to me is the meat. If the ending is cool enough, it will save a lot of the game for me.
Sure.
If it fizzles out, then I will never pick it up ever again. Not even maybe for DLC. It depends.
Okay.
But it's just like I'm like, man, if for me it's that's like 3 other games I could be playing so far. And
to be fair, there's not been a lot of other games out.
No, but I mean, I could catch up on games I haven't played. I'm thinking like, man, I'm probably going to have to spend 70 hours in this game just to beat it at the pace I'm going at with quests and everything. Yeah. So I'm like, man, I could play, Uncharted 4 again.
That's you already played that.
I know, but like that game is going to get me excited the whole time. Versus like,
and honestly, it sounds like a lot of this down is just to your preference of game.
Sure,
and what you want out of an experience.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm still going to play it, and maybe we'll do another. After some more updates or whatever, we'll kind of come back and see where we're at again. Right.
We know the next gen update's coming this summer, theoretically. And I think maybe at least one. I think originally they planned for at least one of their like paid big DLCs to come out this year. We'll see. It kind of makes me wonder if that won't now just because of the backlash and they're having to do a lot of repair with the game when they thought they'd be building. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. There's
I just don't know how
Cyberpunk isn't done with its news cycle for sure. It's going to have there's going to be many more retrospective articles like 6 months later, 9 months later, 10 months later. And eventually, I mean, someday the hope is you get the Cyberpunk is good now articles. I mean, I hope. I want to get there.
Yeah, I just, I feel like that's one thing. That's a trend I don't like in games lately. In the last 5 or more years is, oh, this game is good now because they fixed it. I'm like, well, maybe it should have come out good.
Yes. I agree. There's two sides to that coin. There's the two sides where that is true. It should have, it means that they're allowing the public to be their playtesters. When there's a lot of games that should be early access that aren't.
Sure.
Avengers would have been a great example, like a game that was not in the state. It didn't have enough content, wasn't working well enough to be a full-on game, but as an early access game that could have worked because people would have known they're buying into a work in progress. But I do agree that, but on the other side of that, that's
what I'm saying. You can just label it early access,
You're right. Yeah. And that is happening. Yeah. But at the same time, there's a lot of games that used to come out, and if they came out bad, they're just bad now. And if you were really looking forward to that game, sucks for you. It sucks.
Yeah, and they
now
work on it.
Games that have evolved that like, oh, I was really looking forward to this game. I mean, it's not my game, but No Man's Sky.
Yeah, everyone talks about that one.
Everyone was ready for that game. It's so hyped. And then when it came out, they were mad because they were kind of deceived, but also they really wanted to play a game that looked really fun, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so now that game is like everything they wanted to be and more. And that's a good thing for gamers.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. But yeah, that's another conversation probably.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I think we had a good little Cyberpunk 2077.
That was good.
Yeah, and of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button below, that notification bell. That way you're up to date on all future episodes. Of course, that is assuming you're watching it on the YouTube channel, which we implore you to do. It's the best way to consume the content. And if you're, listening on a podcast in your car, then hey, that's great too. And if you can, tell people about it. It's fun doing this, and we have again finally content on the channel besides the podcast. It's very digestible. You don't have to hear us talk a whole lot. And it's I think personally it's tailored to maybe some of the interests that the things we talk about.
100%. So, and if you, honestly, I'd really love to hear any opinions of people that have played it. If you agree with
let me know.
If you kind of see the same issues that one of us are, or both of us are, or are you seeing something else? Am I missing something? There very well could be an upgrade that does this road thing that I've wanted. Maybe it's there, and maybe it's like, you don't get it to your level 90, which then is an issue there for me too. But all I have to say is, this is a very divisive game, and I am very interested in hearing your opinions on it, especially if they're the opposite of ours. So write into us, bit.ly/241mail. You can write in all your opinions about it. You can leave a goddamn novel in there if you want. But also comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts about, what our thoughts are on the content and on the game. But yeah, bit.ly/241mail. Reach out. I want to know what you think about Cyberpunk 2077.
Well, there we have it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.